Okay, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, that's a good start. Hopefully, I'm gonna give people, it's 6 o'clock right now, which is obviously when class starts. I'm gonna give people a couple minutes. Sometimes it makes people update Zoom whenever I send. Did anyone have to update Zoom?
Yes.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. I figured as much. It's something with the Rutgers Zoom. I don't know why it like makes people update all the time. I wish Zoom could just email us ahead of time and be like, hey, just so you know, like tomorrow,
Right.
you're gonna need to be updated.
Right.
But that would be too simple, right? Like, no thanks. Exactly. Cool. So I'll give people a couple minutes while I get my tea ready. While we wait for people to join us, does anyone have any random questions? Or how about this? Were you able to access the Canvas page? Has that been published? Or have you tried? Maybe you didn't try it.
Yes.
Yes, I was able to
Syllabus
access it.
too.
Okay, so a couple people have said they have. Okay, good. People are writing in the chat box that they have access. All right, great. Fair warning, I've been using Blackboard, so Canvas is a new platform for me. I'm going to do my best to not have any issues, but just please be a little patient. I know that all of us have had to really adjust over this last year, and like, how many different platforms do we have to work with?
Right.
So, let's see. I'll give people like one more minute. And if you do have any questions, you can shout them out, or you can write them in the chat box while we wait like a minute. I do like how people have photos. So if you do have your camera turned off, I like that how some of the students have photos. That's very helpful for professors. So I don't require that you turn your camera on. You can have your camera on if you would like. That's up to you. If you don't have your camera on, though, I do recommend, especially if you're going to be taking any more classes like this, that when you turn your camera off, there's a photo of you that shows. I didn't do that last semester, and I wish I did, because it would have made it a lot easier to kind of get to know people, because this is a tricky
update. I think the update erased my picture.
Oh, really? Oh, no. Well, yeah. So, yeah, Jennifer was saying that she thinks the update erased her photo, and Alexa's saying the same. Yeah, that's a bummer. So sorry about that. I don't have any control over the Zoom updates. I promise you all. All right, so it's 6:03. I'm going to get started. I'm going to mute people while I get started. But if you do have a question at any time, just so there's not weird feedback, if you do, Pooja says, Professor, your plants look really cool. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm teaching you about plants, so I better have some plants, right? Or else you can't really trust what I'm saying. Here, so I'm gonna pull up the PowerPoint, get this going. All right. I will say though, if you do choose to have your camera on, just be aware that we can see you, right? And so don't I've been in some weird meetings where people have maybe they forgot that their camera was on. I don't know, but all I know is that they should have had their camera off for whatever they were doing. So if you do choose to have your camera on, be professional, right? So even though we're meeting live today, I do record these meetings, and they will be available on YouTube. So keep that in mind as well. All right. So with that, I'd like to welcome everyone to Basic Plant Science Lecture. My name is Dr. Rebecca Panko. If you ever need to reach out to me for any reason, you can reach me at rebecca.panko@rutgers.edu. Hopefully you have already been receiving, so you're in the Zoom right now. So I'm assuming that you've been receiving my emails, because I sent that out today for where the Zoom is located. So that's a good sign. But just FYI, some of you have already emailed me about different things. I'm very quick to email back, especially during the work week. If it's on a weekend, okay, maybe I'm not going to get back to you right away. But overall, I've got a really quick turnaround time. I pride myself on that. If you email me at midnight, there's a really good chance I'll get back to you within like 15 minutes. I'm just that type of person. I need to get those things off my to-do list. Jennifer, you have a question?
I do. I'm one of those students that missed the lab for this semester, but
Okay.
I saw that you have a. Can we come into your lab class while we're visiting? I mean, you know, can we come into your lab class to visit and, you know, if we're not registered?
Okay, great question. So Jennifer is asking, in case you guys couldn't hear, she was asking if it was, so some of you here are enrolled in the lecture, some of you are enrolled in the lab, and some of you are enrolled in both. I don't have control over the access of like getting officially registered. If you are still trying to get officially registered for the lab, please send me an email and I will give you the email address of who you can contact about that. I'm also not teaching the lab. I have my good friend Haley teaching the lab, who I've known for years and who will be great. And so I don't want to make any assumptions on what she's comfortable with. And so what I'd like to do, if you'd like to get registered, send me an email and I can see if we could still do that. If you are just looking to maybe participate in the lab and not officially register, also send me an email and I can hit Haley up and see if she'd be okay with that. All right. Yes, so I'm very good about getting back to emails. That's the thing. So, okay, so this is basic science lecture, right? So, and you guys should take notes for sure. So you don't have to rewatch these recordings. But so this is a plant. Okay, thanks guys. I hope you had a great semester. No, it's not going to be that simple, right? I wish, but no, it's a little bit more complicated than that, y'all. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's not as complicated as like physics or chemistry, right? So I know sometimes when I've taught this class in person as well, and I know sometimes students are not happy to have to be taking a science related class, and I get it. I totally get it. I had to take tons of classes in undergrad that had nothing to do with what I was going to do. But just know that this isn't going to be as hard as like a physics or a chemistry or something like that. And hopefully you'll be able to get something out of this class that you could actually apply to your daily life. So let me go forward on this. Before I jump in on it, I want you guys to know a little bit about me and where I'm coming from. So I am, I'm the daughter of national park rangers, which means I have lived in a lot of different places. Like my folks worked in the Everglades for a while, so I lived in Florida for a while. My folks worked at the Statue of Liberty Island Monument when I was a little kid. So I was in New York as a really little kid, and then I moved back to New York when I was 21, where I lived for a long time. I'm not gonna tell you how long, because I'm of an age where I don't like you to know how old I am. But suffice it to say, I was there for well over 10 years when I moved back. But during my life, I've really kind of been studying plants in different ways all the time. I've been lucky enough to work for the Park Service myself and go to different universities to do undergrad research over my years. And then obviously I ended up at Rutgers Newark, where I pursued my PhD in biology. And so what I studied when I was there was how plants evolve to life in cities. So obviously the city means a lot to me. Brooklyn in particular is where I live. So I love New York City and the surrounding urban area. So I was always interested. You don't need to go to the jungle or even like the forest to study plants. Plants are everywhere and they're in the city as well. And so for my dissertation work, I looked at whether this little common weed called shepherd's purse was adapting to life in New York City. And the reason why urban plants are super important is they provide things to us and things to other organisms inside of cities. So for example, plants in cities improve air quality, and they help mitigate noise, which means reduce noise. They support the biodiversity of other taxa. What that means, that's a very sciencey way of saying that they help other organisms like butterflies and like this little woodpecker here live inside of cities. So that's a fancy way of saying that. They also prevent erosion. They provide cooling effects. Oh, and I should mention that all of these slides will be posted on Blackboard as well, or no, Canvas. So the recordings of the lectures will be available on Canvas, and the slides themselves will also be available on Canvas, just so you know, okay, in case I go a little quick through something. And then they provide this pivotal role in nutrient cycling. So we will get into it over the course of the semester, but that kind of means that they, for example, take CO2 gas out of the air and release oxygen as a byproduct. So things like that, but we'll learn more about that as we go on. So that's why I like to study plants in urban areas. If you live in and around New York City, maybe you're in Newark, maybe you're in Journal Square, maybe you never know, maybe you're out on the island. You probably are familiar with the fact that there's a lot of concrete, there's a lot of paved surfaces, there's buildings, things like that. Those things make it so that water, like rainwater, can't go into the dirt because it's covered in buildings and concrete and all that. So what happens? The dirt's either mad dry, droughty, or you got flooding. I know where I used to live in Brooklyn, it was like an inch of rain and the entire street was flooded. So those are problems for plants. This is an example of that. Another thing that plants deal with in cities, particularly cities in the Northeast, like New York, is salt application. So in some supers, like there was a super on my block who just loved putting salt. There wouldn't even be necessarily snow coming, and it was like it looked like a margarita party had happened. It was just like, what are we doing here? And so that makes it so that salt goes somewhere, guys. Like, where does it go? It goes in the water systems, but it also goes in the soil, and that can cause problems for plants. And then not to mention other things like pollution, right? Lead pollution and dogs doing stuff on the plants, other things like that. Anyways, that's just so you guys know a little bit about me. I am very proud because during COVID, right, I actually finished my PhD against all odds. I had to bring everything from the lab to my apartment in Brooklyn. My poor husband was, it was kind of nice because he actually got to see me go through it, and I didn't have to like explain to him what I was going through. He was super supportive, but I'm mad proud because it was basically like, I know all of us with COVID have had to adjust, and we've all been through a lot with it. And I know that it's really been disruptive. I can't say enough about it, but so that's why I am mad proud that I was able to see myself to the deadline I had set for myself. So this is me, we didn't have commencement. So this is me doing my own commencement on the Brooklyn side with the city behind me. And then this is the dorkiest like white girl thing I probably ever did in my life, but I somehow ended up on a paddleboard with my garb on. And that was like my celebration. Like that was like my walk, as it were. But yeah, super dorky. Okay, do not judge me. All right. I did not fall in either. Proud of that as well. Okay. Now, where am I? I'm in Michigan, kids. I'm in Michigan. I am working as a postdoc research associate here at the Department of Plant Biology at Michigan State University. I moved here during COVID in July. So that's been crazy because it's like Michigan is not Brooklyn. Luckily, East Lansing is pretty diverse on a Michigan, like on a Michigan scale. Obviously, other areas are also pretty diverse, so that part's been okay. The food is okay. It's not Brooklyn. What can I say? My husband still works in Manhattan, so I've flown more than I ever flown in my life during COVID, which was I don't recommend that. But yeah, so it's been an interesting existence, but it is what it is. We both have jobs. We're, thank knock wood, we're happy. We're making it work. Got to be adaptable during these times. Got to do what you got to do, right? Reach your goals. Go at them dreams. But yeah, this is me now. Okay, enough about me. So what are we going to do today? Well, we're going to go over the syllabus, and we're going to just talk about plant science a little bit. And we're going to talk about the importance of plants and life on Earth, and then plant names and plant classification. So first, the syllabus. The syllabus is available on Canvas. And in a second here, I will show you how to access it if Canvas is also a new platform for you, because it is for me as well. So this is what the syllabus looks like. It's got my info here. It has the Zoom location, etc. This is how you can get in touch with me. If you are also registered in the lab, this is how you can get in touch with Haley. So her email address is hea7@njit.edu. And she has a separate a separate Zoom for the lab. So keep that in mind, right? If you are in the lab, you're not going to be meeting in this Zoom, you're going to be meeting in that Zoom. And I asked her to please send you guys an email with all of the invitation information as well. All right. How in the heck is this summer going to work? Well, so this course is virtual, right? We already know that. And the way it's going to work is there's going to be some sessions that are live, like this one today. And then there's going to be some pre-recorded sessions. Both have their advantages and both have their disadvantages. The good news is if we do have a live session like today, I will be recording them. I'm recording right now. And those will be posted for you to watch in case you have technical difficulties or something else happens that you can't attend the live sessions. The pre-recorded sessions are going to be available at 6 p.m. though when class begins, and you can find them. The links will be on Canvas. I'll show you where to find those. And yeah, this class says it's supposed to last from 6 to 9 something. Even in the before times, it never did. That's like crazy long. So most classes will last from like 6 to maybe 7:30. There might be like 1 or 2 oddballs that go to like 7:45 or something like that. The nice thing about the pre-recorded sessions, right, is you can take breaks from listening to me talk, right? I know I like to talk, but you can take breaks. You could go to the pre-recording, watch part of it, go eat dinner, or go check your kids' homework, or whatever it is you have to do in your other life other than this class. So that's what's nice about the pre-recorded sessions. What isn't nice about those is it's maybe harder for you to ask me questions, but not, because this semester I'll show you how we're going to do that as well. Okay. When we have the live sessions like this, I will Zoom records attendance. And you can participate by speaking out or writing in the chat box like you guys have already been doing. In the recorded sessions, I'll show you, actually, I'll probably pull up the Canvas right now. What we're gonna do is you're gonna reply in the threads for the lecture slides for those recordings. So let me do this. I'm gonna go to Canvas right now just to show you guys what I'm even talking about. And feel free to interrupt me at any time. Get this, share, and then I gotta get here. Wait, boy, hold on. I gotta make this smaller. Boom. Okay. So right now I should be in, I think I am. I'm in student view. So if you go right, so if you were to log into Canvas right now and go to the home page for this course, this is what you would see. You would see this, just a little hi, and then here you go. This is the slides that I'm currently showing you right now. And so for the pre-recorded things, the pre-recorded lectures, these will post as an announcement at 6 p.m. when the class begins. And then you can like write things like, oh, wow, this is so interesting. I love this class. Or something like that, right? Or a question, right? Or if you need clarification, or if you just want to tell me that you're mad frustrated, but be professional, be professional. This is where you're going to interact with me during those pre-recorded things. And what's nice about this is it's a way for us all to interact together, even though we're separate. And it's a way that you could see what your fellow students are thinking about and wondering about. And I believe that you guys will be able to comment on each other's ones too, if you want. So that's how that's going to work. There are homework assignments after every after every lecture, there's a homework assignment. They are not meant to be hard. They are meant to be easy if you attended the class or watched the recording and took notes. So don't get upset about them. I have run this course with and without these, and without these, people do bad. With these, people do good. So I want you to do well, and that's why we have these. Each one will have something like 8 to 10 questions, and I forget, I think I even didn't set a time limit, but you can only take each one time. So if you log in, be ready to take it, but there isn't a time limit, and it's never going to be due that night. You'll always have a couple days to turn it in. This is all detailed on the syllabus. Pages right now, this is where the recordings will be. I don't think they're accessible to you yet. If you go to the syllabus tab though, this is kind of nice that Canvas does this, kind of puts everything in order of what you need to deal with. So like, for example, after our class tonight, the next thing you'll have to deal with for lecture is that first quiz that's due on Friday before midnight, right? The next thing will be Monday's lecture. It's a pre-recording, so boom, you watch it there. After that's done, while that's going on, you're writing those little things in the threads, right? And then when that class is over, you do the homework assignment. So pretty straightforward. I'm gonna stop sharing that. Okay. Go through this. And always does this to me. Here we go. Okay. Big, make it big. Yeah. So that's how that's gonna work. So if you're gonna be absent, let's say you're not gonna be able to attend a live lecture, right? I understand, stuff like that happens. One way that I'm thinking about dealing with that is if you do miss a live lecture, you can kind of make up the absence. You could at least get up some participation by opening up that thread for that live lecture and writing stuff in there for participation. But if you're gonna miss an exam or a quiz, you need to provide me some valid reason, right? Even if it's my boss is making me stay late or something, but I still need to have some documentation. And turn in those homework quizzes, turn in those things on time. If it's late, I drop it a letter grade. And if it's over a day late, you don't get credit for it, period. The semester moves really, really fast. And I have to be able to grade everything and get things done an appropriate amount of time. So turn your things in on time. I give you enough time to do it. How is your grade for lecture going to be calculated? So those quizzes are 50% of your grade. Those quizzes are 50% of your grade. There's 8 of them. There's going to be 2 exams. Those exams will happen during our regular meeting. Those exams will be open to take during class time and be due similarly to how the quizzes are due, right? So that they will be available during class time, but if you won't have to do it right then and there. You'll have a little wiggle room. And then this attendance and participation, 10%, that's a whole letter grade. So that's why I want you guys to participate in the threads, in the chat box and all that. Also just help you have more fun with the class. Please work hard. Don't space out and do nothing. So I have a question here from Fern. How are the quizzes and exams designed? So are you meaning like the format? If so, they're usually basically a multiple choice. Sometimes it might be fill in the blank. Sometimes it might be matching, like you'll have a word and you need to like match it with its definition, things like that. They won't ever have you write some long thing. It's usually a mixture of the things I described, and they will be on Canvas. But yeah, work hard now. You don't even know how many hours I put into this class already. I've already made 5 lectures. I've already recorded 4 lectures. I made the syllabus. I've been busy. So don't space out. I know you're busy. I'm busy too, right? So Don't space out, don't do nothing. This is a month-long class, basically. If you space out for a week, good luck trying to catch up. So stay with me, stay on it. And if you need help at any time, you know where to reach me. Okay. Here is the whole, this is the whole semester. It's too much, it's such a short semester. I can't explain that enough. Like, I can't hit that home enough how short this semester is. We only have 8 lectures, including today, and 2 exams, and that's it. So this moves. You're gonna blink and the whole semester is gone. Trust me, it's how it always feels. So this is the dates of those lecture exams. Make sure you put those in your calendar now, right? Put those in your calendar now, or make a note of them somewhere on a piece of paper. The book for this class, which I sent out to you guys, is Stern's Introductory to Plant Biology. This is the 14th edition. This is what the 13th edition looks like. I wrote in the email, you could use any edition you get your hands on. Find the cheapest one. You could even check out libraries. You could even probably rent it. I do not want you spending a lot of money on this book. So if you find an older version that's like 10 bucks, 20 bucks, do that, okay? I will provide most of the information in the lectures, but the way that the book is laid out, because the semester moves so quickly, it's just nice. The book does fill in maybe gaps. And I've designed the lectures to really follow the flow of the book. Some lectures, because we only meet 8 times, will cover material from more than one chapter, as shown here on the right in the chapters column. I'm not expecting you to read the whole chapter. You don't have to read the whole chapter, but what I do recommend is, whether you're attending the live recording, the live session, or watching the recording, for you to take notes during that lecture. And then sit with those notes for a minute, look at the slides that are posted, write some questions, comments, or whatnot in the thread, and refer to your book. Your book has a great glossary of terms. Yeah, so I'm not expecting you to read 3 chapters for this class today, right? 1, 16, and 12, no. But that's where all the material I'm going to present today is from. So that's how that works. Okay. This is the homework quizzes. This is just so you have it all in one place. After every class that we have a lecture, there will be a quiz for homework. And on a Wednesday class, like so today, for example, is a Wednesday class. The homework quiz will be due by Friday by midnight. For Monday classes, the homework quiz is always going to be due before class meets on Wednesday. That's how that's going to work. But I give you a little bit more wiggle room on those Wednesday quizzes. We have more time on a Friday. Okay. Yes, and I know, like, people always moan when I show them these quizzes, but trust me, I've run this course with and without these, and if we don't do the quizzes, then each exam is worth 50% of your grade. And that's not fun for anyone. That's not fun for me. That's not fun for you. Because if you fail one of those, that's kind of it, right? So that's why we do the quizzes, and the quizzes collectively are worth 50% of your grade, which and makes the exams only worth 20% of your grade each. So if you don't do so hot on one, you still have a fighting chance. So that's why I'm doing this, all right? I'm not doing it to be mean. Don't cheat, don't plagiarize, don't do the stuff you know you're already not supposed to do. Don't do it. I will say this is a virtual class, right? I'm not in your house. I can't see you. So here's what I will say. I expect when you're taking these quizzes and exams, I expect that you're looking at material, right? Whether it's the book or your notes or my slides. Here is what I will recommend though. Do not intend on taking a quiz and watching the recording. Oh, do you no good. Watch the recording first, okay? Take notes. Same, don't try to take an exam having looked at nothing and expect that you're going to be able to miraculously find the information you need to do that exam in your book and on the slides and in my recordings. So I'm realistic. I know you're going to look at stuff that you have been provided to do these. But aside from that, you know what you're not supposed to do. So don't do this stuff. If you need to figure out what is cheating or plagiarizing, there's plenty of places to go Google that, and these links as well. Okay, sorry about all this. We got to get through it though. The syllabus is on Canvas where I showed you. Read the whole syllabus. I did not go through all of it today. So make sure there's a file there to download of the whole syllabus. Make sure you read that. The lab syllabus is also there if you happen to be registered in the lab. And after we meet from tonight, I want you to mark all your calendars with all the dates of these things, of the quizzes and the exams when they're due. Okay. So enough of all that fun stuff. It kind of makes me feel like a flight attendant or something when I go through these things. Like, this is how you put on a seatbelt. This is how you, like, if this falls out of the ceiling, breathe out of it. Okay. Plants. You're here about plants, right? Not for me to be yelling at you, right? You're here for plants. So why plants? Who even cares? Plants, right? No, we don't like plants. Well, you should, because plants are pretty important to the earth and you and me. Plants take carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, and this says carbon fixation. That's a fancy way of saying plants take carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and turn it into sugar that the plant uses, but also that you use if you eat the plant, or if you eat animals, you had to feed those animals, usually plants. And so the sugars that the plants make from carbon dioxide feed you and feed everything else pretty much on the earth. They take CO2 and they turn it into sugar, starch, amino acids, fatty acids, and they are the basis of the terrestrial food chain. That just means that for things that live on land, like us, they are the basis of our food chain. Terrestrial just means on land, as versus in the ocean. We'll learn the details about how plants do this, but just to give you a preview, you can see here on the bottom left, you got a plant. Sunlight is shining on that plant. The plant is able to absorb CO2 through little holes in its leaves, breathes in the CO2 gas. And then from the roots, it's absorbing water. And with the power of the sunlight, which is amazing, it is able to turn that carbon dioxide into sugar. And another nice thing for us, as a waste product, so something that the plant's like, I don't even need this, goodbye, they release oxygen, which if you didn't know, that's what you need to live and breathe. So thanks plants, pretty nice of them to do all these things. So this is what I just said, right? Oxygen is released as a waste product, and that's what we breathe. Okay. Plant life is the majority of life on Earth. It's 98% of the total biomass of the living things on Earth is plant life. That's why if you look at the Earth from space, the Earth is a combination of blue and green, because the blue is the oceans and the green is all the plants. This is what I just said. They turn CO2 into sugars or glucose, and they provide nutrients for all of us and release oxygen. So it's just a summary slide. And this is from your book. It's estimated that without plants, the oxygen on Earth would be gone in 11 years. So they are important. So this is just a little history about food and plants for us. So plants make up 90% of our food as humans. And in fact, we would not have human civilization without the domestication of plants. So basically, about 10,000 years ago, give or take, in many places around the world, people figured out how to domesticate plants. And once people figured out how to do that, they did not have to keep moving around to go find plants to eat. They could grow plants themselves and they could stay put. So they could build cities and places to live permanently, the basis of civilization. 3 of these events, one happened in South America. sorry, in Central America. One happened in Southeast Asia, and one happened in the Middle East. And so people in those areas learned how to domesticate corn in the Americas, wheat and barley in the Middle East, and rice in Asia. And that allowed people to build civilizations. In addition to the importance of food that plants give us, plants also provide us fuel. So in both the traditional sense and the modern sense. So my folks, for example, they live in Connecticut and they still heat their house mostly with wood. That's the main way that they heat their house. And a lot of people still do it that way around the world. But obviously we have things like fossil fuels, right? Natural gas, coal, and oil. And so you may think, when you hear the word fossil fuels, maybe you're thinking about like dinosaurs, right? Well, we have fossil fuels because we had dinosaurs, and dinosaurs, you know, they died and now we have fossil fuels from them. Well, there were a lot more prehistoric plants than there were dinosaurs. So the majority of our coal and oil and natural gas actually is from plants. And then biodiesel is something that is a more modern thing where, for example, you turn corn into gasoline, right? And this picture is hilarious. Like, it is not this lovely. Like, it is not like you use biodiesel and there's leaves flying out of into your car. No, it's still gasoline, even if it's made from corn. And I got some issues with corn, but anyways, and so that's what this is showing you down here. So here you go. This is an old prehistoric forest, right? Old prehistoric forest, so hundreds of millions of years ago. They died, right? They died. The materials go into the earth over time, and with a lot of pressure, it generates a lot of heat. And over time, these dead plants turn into these fossil fuels, for example, coal. So that's how that process works. All right. So we use plants for food, we use plants for fuel, we use plants for materials. If you're wearing cotton or linen right now, or if you've ever made something out of hemp or anything like that, right, bamboo, you're wearing plants. Those are from plants. If you have a modern home or a more traditional home, there's a good chance that a lot of your home is built out of plants. And then things like paper, which is made mostly from trees called conifers, like pine trees, but it's also made from other materials like cotton, rice, and hemp. So we use it for materials, we use it for medicine. We use plants to make a lot of different medicines. This plant, for example, is used to produce quinine, which is an anti-fever agent that prevents and treats malaria. So we use that plant for that. This plant, which the common name is Madagascar periwinkle, we actually have made cancer treatments using this plant. And I should say, you know, indigenous peoples have been using plants all around the world for thousands and thousands of years to treat all sorts of ailments, right? So yes, we do make modern medicines from these plants, but I want to point out that those modern medicines are the result of thousands of years of people figuring out how to use plants to treat maladies. Okay, so this is a summary slide. I like to stay organized. Why are they important? I also like to talk. Why are plants important? They fix carbon, or they take CO2 gas and turn it into sugar. They give us food, the whole world food. They make oxygen. Thank you, plants, right? They, like, if you ever like need to relax, relate, release, like kind of thing, you know, that's all the plants' oxygen there. We built civilizations from plants. We power our engines and heat our homes using plants. We build things and wear things. because of plants, and we make medicine from plants. So, and there's even more things that I don't even have time to tell you. So yeah. All right. Now we're going to talk a little bit about life on Earth. So on Earth, there's something called the biosphere. And I took Latin, believe it or not, at Hunter College when I was trying to improve my GPA years and years ago, because my SAT scores were not great. And also I'm a non-traditional student. So I believe it or not, I should point out, I actually had a GED and I now have a PhD. So from GED to PhD, I was a non-traditional student. I didn't even start college until I was in my late 20s. So there is no one path of success, okay? Never let anyone tell you that there is one path. But because I took Latin, I thought it would be super helpful, and because I'm in science, it is. So bio means life, and sphere is a circle. So this is, the circle refers to this circle, Earth, and the bio part is just saying life on Earth. Life on Earth. Where is life on Earth? Life on Earth is in certain locations. You don't need to know these terms. You don't need to know these terms on here, but you should have some appreciation for the fact. So this yellow circle, right? This, oh, by the way, I'm going to annotate a decent amount in this class, and I am very bad at annotating. I apologize ahead of time, but I do enjoy it so very much, even though I'm not very good at it. So this whole, here we go. Whoa, this whole circle here, this yellow circle, I told you I'm not good at it, is that biosphere. And inside of that biosphere, or life on Earth, there's different places where life occurs. Most life that we, that's not a good color to use on that. Most life that we think of is because we live on this part, is the ground, right? Like on the surface of the Earth, or the ecosphere. But there's also life in the water, which is the hydrosphere. There's also life in the rocks that we can't see below ground. That's the lithosphere. And then the atmosphere also supports life. So that's where life occurs. You don't need to know the names of those spheres, but you should know that there is a biosphere where life is on Earth. And you should know this. So in that biosphere, we have this, so as scientists, we have organized it, all the life in that biosphere, into 3 domains. 3 domains. There's bacteria and archaea, which are both examples of prokaryotic organisms. So like microscopic organisms is how you can think of that. And then there is this domain, eukarya. I always say, because eukarya, eukarya, which represents all the eukaryotic organisms. And eukaryotic are multicellular organisms. So for example, you eukarya, you are part of eukarya. You're a multicellular organism. If you have a dog, your dog is also part of eukarya. If you have a houseplant, it's also part of eukarya. And all the multicellular organisms are in eukarya. Okay. So those are the 3 domains: bacteria, archaea, and eukarya. Because we're talking about plants, we're going to focus on eukarya because of plants and also because eukarya. Yeah? All right. So who is in eukarya? Well, there's different kingdoms, right? Maybe you've heard of the animal kingdom. That might be a familiar kingdom, right? There's other kingdoms too, not just animal. There's the protists, which is like, you don't even think about these, but maybe you do if you are responsible for cleaning your household like I am. Algae, molds, water molds, protozoa, little kind of squiggly things, right? Those are your protists. They're also in eukarya because they're multicellular organisms. And then fungi, right? Mushrooms and funguses. So your yeasts and your molds and your mildews, those kind of things, are also in the domain eukarya. Animals, oh, right, much cuter than fungi and protists. oh, they have eyes and they run around and some of them are fluffy, right? Oh, fluffy duck, right? Everyone loves animals. But I go more on these because I love plants. So plants are also in eukarya. So protists, fungi, animal, and plants are the domains in the domain eukarya. All right. There's a lot of plants that are known. There's almost 400,000 that are currently known. And 94% of that 400,000, it's a little, yeah, not quite 400,000 are known, but almost. Of those, 94% of them make flowers. So most of the time, if you're thinking of a plant, you probably think about a flower too, right? It's probably like leaf, flower. Those are the basic parts of a plant, right? But believe it or not, there's new species of plants discovered every year. About 2,000 are discovered each year globally. And if you're interested, you can pull up this link at the BBC to show you some examples of plants that were discovered in 2018, if you don't believe me. This is a slide, this is a graph showing you just species that were described in the Americas. So North America, Central America, and South America, right? On the left, you have number of species. So on the y-axis, you have number of species. On the x-axis, you have year. And then this black line here is kind of adding them all up over time. It's like the cumulative number. But just this is just in the Americas, and you can see, you know, depending on what was going on there, lots and lots of species being discovered every year just in the Americas alone. Okay. But plants are at risk. And so in the scientific community, which represents everybody in the scientific community, right? Chemists, physicists, biologists, etc. There's a consensus that we are in the 6th mass extinction on Earth. So there's been 5 already that we know of, based on the fossil record and based on things like that, taking cores in the ice in Antarctica and things like that. And so we're currently in the 6th mass extinction. And the last one was the one made famous by Jurassic Park, right? Was about 65 million years ago. And that's when the dinosaurs got extinct, right? Although some were able to squeeze out, right? That's why we have birds now. But so there's this international study that evaluated 13,000 species of plants and found that of those 13,000, 70% are threatened with extinction. There's a whole pamphlet here if you're interested to find out more about that. But the take-home message for this class is that of those plants that were threatened with extinction, 99% of them are at risk from human activities. And these activities are not as simple as you might think. You might not, most people might, well, we'll get there. So part of the reason why plants are at risk from human activities is because of how many humans there are. There's lots. And we just, you know, there's lots of us. If you look here globally, let's even just go to 1750. Globally in 1750, it was around 500 million, which might seem like a lot. But right now we're approaching 8 billion, which is a lot more. So part of the reason why plants are at risk from human activity is because there's just so many humans, and we use the land for a lot of different things. Here are the activities that humans do that are the major threats putting plants at risk. So believe it or not, the main human activity that is actually putting plants at risk is agriculture and something called aquaculture, which is when you grow, when you are growing things to consume in water, right? So even like fishing farms and things like that. So these practices represent the largest risk to plants. And part of that is just because of how much land mass we dedicate to agriculture, and also how when you do agriculture at one location, the effects of that agriculture don't necessarily just stay at that location. Like, so I lived in Florida for a while, and the middle part of Florida is agriculture. And so they grow different things and they raise cows and all that. And as part of that, they put fertilizer on the land, right? Because they want the plants to grow. But the fertilizer doesn't just stay on the land that they put it on. When you have rains and the water table below Florida is not that high, the fertilizer can escape. And so I don't know if you have friends or family that live in Florida, or if you've heard of the algae blooms and the fish kills that have been happening along the coast of Florida. That's due primarily to fertilizer runoff. So that's one example of that. Other things are these two, biological resource use and natural system modifications. Those are fancy sciencey ways of saying changing the land for some purpose. And then you have residential and commercial development, invasive and other problematic species. For example, maybe you've heard of the emerald ash borer. That was a problematic pest in our region. And then things like pollution, climate change, energy production, etc. So just to give you guys an idea. Okay. So why am I saying this? Because plants are really important and they need our help. We need to appreciate plants. We need to generate plant awareness, because there is an inherent amount of plant bias where people kind of live their lives and use things from plants and don't even really know it. And so we need to advocate for sustainable practices and conservation efforts to be mindful of these things. Some ways that we can improve are by changing the way we do agriculture. If we do create pollutants, we need to be able to turn them into something that's harmless. Recycling is important, but also becomes problematic. I know where my sister lives on Long Island, they don't even recycle in her town. So how do you even recycle there? And then there's other ways as well, but there are things we can do, and becoming aware of plants is the first step. Okay, plant names and classification. So we mentioned that in the domain Eukarya, right? There's different kingdoms: protists, fungi, animals, and plants. And in the plant kingdom, toward the end of this course, so after the first lecture exam, the latter half of this course, we'll learn about these different divisions of the plant kingdom. Because although 94% of the plants that we know of make flowers, believe it or not, there's a ton of other plants that don't ever make a flower. So not all plants make flowers. Okay, before we get there, because when I show you things in the different classes, we might talk about certain species of plants and things like that. I kind of got to give you guys a little bit of a background of something that's called biological taxonomy, which is a mouthful, but it just means it's the science. Here, Latin to the rescue. So the onomy, or science of naming all the organisms, living organisms. So biological taxonomy it's what that is. And so we already learned about this term, for example, Eukarya. And we already learned this term, for example, plant kingdom and animal kingdom, right? But there's these other things too: phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. So when I was in grade school eons ago, the way they had us memorize this was King Philip came out for good sandwiches, which, bleh, but I unfortunately will never forget that. That's it. Yeah, I was sorry. It makes me seem like I was in grade school a lot longer than I was. So here is an example of this with human beings. So human beings are in the domain Eukarya. Human beings are animals. So we're in the kingdom Animalia, the animal kingdom. Human beings have a spinal cord. So we're in the phylum Chordata. Human beings are mammals. So we're in the class Mammalia. Human beings are primates. So we are in the order primates, and etc. We're in the genus Homo. That is the name of our genus. And we are the species Homo sapiens. So every human on Earth is a Homo sapiens. That's our species. And there's no other, right now, there's no other species. Oh, Tyra, you got a question?
That's good.
Hey, Tyra. All right, I'm gonna have to mute Tyra. Tyra, put the phone down. Tune in. Okay. Oh, I have a question here. Would you say red zones by these corporations play a role as well for the lack of plant life? Are you talking about like demographic red zones, Fred?
Yes.
So absolutely. So are you talking about disparity, inequality, and
Yeah.
Yep. So absolutely. And I could talk a lot about that. In fact, maybe I will, at one point, maybe I'll send a link to you guys. I have a friend who is one of the founders of Black Botanists Week, hashtag Black Botanist Week, which was a thing that came out in 2020, which was spurred off of the hashtag Black Birders Week thing. And this is something that we talk about a lot together is, yeah, so the inequalities of, there's a lot, it's a loaded thing. Yes, so yeah, the red zones of the corporations do play a role in the lack of plant life, but there's other things too. For example, communities that have historically a lack of green space and recreational space is one thing. Lack of access to certain types of foods, and where agriculture is, what lands are used for agriculture and what lands are not used for agriculture. A lot of that, it's all, yeah, but good question. Yeah, so all humans are Homo sapiens, and as of right now, we're the only species of our genus. So we're in the genus Homo, but there's no other Homo anythings. We're the only species of our genus. Okay, so that's an example of biological taxonomy with a human being. Just so you know, because you might see these terms in your book and in the lab, phyla is the plural of phylum, genera is the plural of genus, just because you may end up seeing those sometimes. All right, so that was an example with a human being. Now let's do an example with a plant. And this is the plant we looked at before that's used to do cancer medicine. So this plant is also in the domain Eukarya, but it's in the kingdom Plantae, right? Plant kingdom. It's a flowering plant. It's a dicot plant, which you guys will know what that means toward the end of this course. And it's in the genus, so we were in the genus Homo. This plant is in the genus Catharanthus, and the species name of this plant is Catharanthus, I can't talk, Catharanthus roseus. You don't need to know that, but I want you to see how for the human beings, our species name had two names, Homo sapiens, right? Two parts rather. And for this plant, the species name also has two parts. So all species names will be composed of two parts. And that's because, oh, I got to clear this. Of this thing called biological taxonomy, science of naming organisms, which was developed by Carl Linnaeus. So yeah, historically in the sciences, much like lots of other fields, old white dudes are who were the builders of it in a lot of different ways. So There is a history of inequality in the sciences, sexual inequality, gender inequality, obviously racial inequality. But with that being said, we do have to give Carl Linnaeus a little bit of props. He was a Swedish botanist and a zoologist and a physician, and he created this science of naming organisms that's called binomial nomenclature. And to just break it down for you into the Latin, because it helps, bi means two, nomial means names. So binomial means to name. And then nomen refers to name again. And clature is like a system. So binomial nomenclature literally means a two-name naming system. And that's so that every species on Earth has a unique name. And the unique name of every species will be composed of two parts, right? Binomial, two name, two part naming system. And so every species will have a species name that's made up of a genus and what's called a specific epithet. It's important to, every species on Earth needs its own unique name because, for example, let's say I was gonna make medicine, right? Let's say I was gonna try to make some cancer medicine, and I found that the purple flower was able to be used to make cancer medicine. And I want to tell a colleague somewhere else how to make cancer medicine. I can't just say, you know that purple flower that has 5 petals? Like, you know that one? Yeah, use that to make the cancer medicine. We have to be very specific about what we're talking about. That goes for things we're going to eat, that goes for things we're going to put on our body, and that goes for things of medicine. So that's why this two-name naming system is really important, because you need to be very clear when you're giving directions. So there's 2 parts of every species name, and using our previous examples, first part of, remember, we're Homo sapiens. So the first part of our thing, our genus is Homo, and that purple flower's genus is Catharanthus, and our specific epithet is sapiens. Taken together, our species name is Homo sapiens, right? Okay. There's rules like about how you're supposed to write things. For our class, though, I don't know if it's going to matter as much this semester, but if you're going to write a species name, it needs to either be underlined or italicized, as shown here. First word's always capitalized, second word is never capitalized. And if you are referring to something many times, you can just abbreviate the genus name. So if you're like, evidence shows that Homo sapiens first domesticated food approximately 10,000 years ago, blah, 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 modern day H sapiens, it still means Homo, but so you might see that sometimes in the book. And if you're referring to many species, if there were, for example, more species of Homo, we could do like Homo sp, which means all the species in this genus. But we only have one Homo sapiens, that's it. All right, that's a little bit of stylistic stuff so that when you encounter these things, you're not confused. Okay, believe it or not, that's all we have for today. It's short. I know a lot of today was talking about how the syllabus works, how your grades calculated and things like that. It says that the quiz is available on Canvas now. I think it's scheduled to be available at 8 p.m. So when I close this Zoom out, I will go ahead and make it available. So it's not going to be available quite yet. So you should like look over your notes and definitely pull up the lecture slides before you try to attempt the quiz. But it's available on Canvas. It will be available on Canvas shortly and due by Friday before midnight. So that's all I have for you guys today. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have here, or you can send me an email. Yeah, I will post this recording on Canvas once it finishes recording. Yeah, and so otherwise, great to be here on the first class. It's gonna move really fast, guys, so hang in there. We're gonna have some fun. I'm gonna teach you some cool stuff about plants. It's not going to be too hard. Okay. but it's still going to be some science. So hang in there, but I'll walk you through it. I'll walk you through it.
Have a great
Sounds
night,
good.
Professor.
Thank you, Professor. Have a good night.
Thank you guys. Have a great night.
Professor.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night, guys. Bye.